there. This is Just News, and I'm Paul Jessley, just some guy who's going to tell you the news and ride majestically off into the sunset. Let's get to the news. Yeah, to the news! On March 24th, 2018, hundreds of thousands of students, parents, alumni, and even future students all came out to march. March and March. This student is known as the March for Our Lives, and it might have broken the record for number of people marching in D.C. at roughly 800,000. This was led by the Parkland High School survivors in D.C. These kids have taken to the political stage. They have been a driving force in the newly revitalized conversation our country is finally having on gun control laws, with many squabbles popping up on both sides of the argument. Since the March for Our Lives happened on the 24th, kids have started pushing for the legislation, and they've already had a few partial victories. In Florida, they pushed back against the gun buying age. They've closed the boyfriend loophole a bit, and the state is also considering some legal recourse that would allow them to take guns away from these potentially violent people who are often the causes of these gun violent crimes. On the other side of the country, Oregon is even considering a literal all-in-all out ban on all assault weapons. Even Trump's massive $1.3 trillion spending bill, there is a piece that allows the CDC to research the effects and causes of gun violence for the first time in decades. Of course, it's not all happiness and roses for these kids. Rick Santorum, formerly senator and Republican presidential candidate and formerly relevant person, has suggested that these kids just stop pestering the adults by trying to force them to fix the gun problem. They should do something more proactive, like, I don't know, CPR. Mr. Santorum, with all due respect, being shot is generally not when you need to do CPR. That's the bit where you put the bandage on the wound and apply some pressure, even though the person's probably dead. We're a representative democracy. Of fucking course we're going to call and complain. That is what we're supposed to do about something we don't like, something dangerous, such as, I don't know, being shot. It's only when senators don't do their job because of money or known NRA reactions that these issues occur. Meanwhile, in Trumpland this week, the U.S. has, along with many other countries, kicked out a lot of Russian diplomats in solidarity with the U.K. after the Russians used a nerve agent on U.K. soil. A lot of countries kicked out a couple people. We kicked out 60. I can imagine that must have confused Putin, since Trump just had that conversation to tell him, "Atta Putin," basically. This comes on the heels of North Korea secretly going to China to publicly verify with China their willingness to denuclearize and talk with America, which is good. However, they also stipulated that they would have to have certain demands met in return, which are their usual demands of basically America pulling out of Asia, South Korea, and kind of Japan, mostly. But that doesn't really work, which is why we haven't done that before. Other than that, Trump has been touting a new lawyer he was planning on getting, as well as that lawyer's equally competent wife, Mr. DeGenova, who has shown up on television many times to tout Mr. Trump's ability to, be defended in this case. Except then Trump tried to hire him. They did not want to be hired by Trump. Now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Animal Corner, where we'll be talking about one of man's favorite animals. I bet you're thinking of the dog right now, aren't you? It's not the dog. Are you thinking of the cat? It's not the cat either. I'm talking about brown bears. What? I thought we agreed we weren't going to use that, Patrick. Better. Now, researchers have found that the Scandinavian brown bear is joining many other creatures in reshaping their behaviors to cope with humans, though it seems more like they're imitating humans in this case. The apex predator is learning to cope with having a predator, us, by altering some of their parenting habits. Cubs are usually nurtured by the mother bear for about 1.5 years. This has changed over the last decade, researchers note, with cubs staying a full year longer, no matter how hard she tries to get them out of the house. This also, of course, has not been the only way bears have been imitating us lately, as they have been seen texting, attempting to trampoline, and attempting to attend a school. I guess picnic baskets just aren't good enough for Yogi anymore. And now it's time to sit back by the comfortable heat of science as we get ready for Science Nook. Where today, we're going to be talking about the Great Barrier Reef. Now, the Great Barrier Reef of Australia is dying. This is not really news, sadly. It's been happening, and the antipathy of the Australian government to make any kind of meaningful effort at this change has been noted in the past. The reasons supplied for why the reefs are dying are various. It's global warming is the big one, as well as sun damage and a certain kind of fish that really likes to eat coral. Now, the cool thing here, scientists have figured out how to lessen some of that burden. They're working through a temporary solution in using sun shields over the coral reef. The material they have, it's about 50,000 times thinner than a human hair and could stop about 30% of all the sunlight hitting it and prevent some of the sun bleaching. But even the scientists know this is a very temporary measure. The barrier reefs are huge. It would be extremely impractical to cover up the whole thing. But at this point, it's better than nothing. While they work on other solutions, this should give them a bit more time. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe and like us if you like us. If you didn't like us, let us know why in the comment section, and we'll try to get better. See you next week.